Beni joins us in studio this morning to talk about his book, which was written by respected commentator and journalist Mark Gleeson, and the foreword, which was obviously penned by none other than Jose Mourinho, the special one. And so good morning to Beni. I have heard in my ear from our crew that we want another song. Are there any plans to do any other songs?
Good morning, Stacey. Good morning, everyone at home. Oh my gosh, like, just looking at that images, I was like, wow, young, adventurous, fearless kid. But that kid is long gone, because I think I wouldn't have the stomach or the personality to pull something like that off. Now, to try my luck in the studio, no way.
You'll have to call Cabello and say, I don't know.
Oh my God, I genuinely think, like, now, I think the older you get, you kind of realize, like, and when I see that image now, I'm like, how did I even manage to do that, though? Crazy.
I mean, there were a lot of things. We had such a nice conversation off air, and I said to you, we're definitely going to have a longer one, because there's so many rabbit holes that I wanted to go down in your book. The foreword, obviously written, as we mentioned, by Jose Mourinho. We'll get into that. And it's just, the book is entitled Beni with Mark Gleeson. What I loved about it was that you took us into your voice. It's almost like I could hear your accent in certain areas. You were, using slang in a lot of the areas as well. I'm sure you were approached to write this book a while ago, but what was it that when you decided, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to share my story, what led you to that point?
I think just so many people have already approached me to do something like that, and I was like, just listen, I've not achieved anything in my life that I thought.
You really thought that?
Yeah, well, that was the perception that I have of myself. Like, yes, I did things the right way, and I managed to get out of the situation. Growing up in the Cape Flats, and Hanover Park was really tough. So I was just one of those fortunate kids, but I didn't expect, like, the effect that it had on so many other people. And then when it just became so much that I was like, wow, maybe I should kind of do this. But one of my colleagues and one of my close friends, he's always telling me, Munib Joseph's always telling me, listen, because we speak Afrikaans to each other, like Cape Town Afrikaans, and then he's always saying to me, Bruchi, you know what? You should do this, man, because when you tell a story somehow, somewhere about your journey, it's like just like the imaginary guy that you have living in your head tells the story. That's exactly how it is, and I really think you should do it. And I think that's when I kind of like realized, like, and then when Mark Gleeson approached and said to me, why don't we just try this? And then I just ended up sitting down with him, and then we did it. And now I'm so blessed and grateful that I ended up not ignoring what these guys were saying, because I think, my story could help a lot of people from when you come from the depression side of life,
Let's talk about that, where you grew up. I think something that struck me in the book is that you often said that you didn't want the adulation, you didn't want to be adored, but it was an important part of your career. It was an important part of forming you as a young player. Do you think that perhaps growing up in Hanover Park, you saw that when people didn't get validated, that they didn't go on to achieve their purpose and success in life? Was it something that you just never really reflected on, but now that you reflect on it, you realize it was that guiding sort of a silver thread in your life, or golden thread in your life? Yeah,
definitely. I think we all need hope. I think there's hope for everybody. So if you just think, this is you were placed here, and that's what you're good for, and your life's gonna end there, then and there's no purpose behind it, and then I think then almost like life is sad, So I was one that, I didn't have the easiest pathway, but I also never gave up, like. Not everybody is going to open doors for you and make it easy for you. Sometimes you got to force your way into every situation. And I think that's what I did. And fortunately enough for me, I managed to scrape my way into every door that I tried to open. But I think people just have to be brave. When you come from different circumstances, like, and that, like, you have to make people listen.
So it's interesting because, and we have to touch on so many things, but you said in the book there was peace in the neighborhoods on Sunday because it was a time for football tournaments. In other words, talking about the fact that gang activity would then die down on these Sundays, right? There was no shooting. All the gang bosses will be running their teams. Did you feel a sense of responsibility as a player that because there was peace in the neighborhood the days that you were playing, that you had to continue playing in order to maintain the peace?
Yes, of course, because it was when it's quiet, when there's no alarm bells. When I say alarm bells, the gunshots,
yes.
Because that was a daily thing. So it became part and parcel of your life. But sometimes you just wanted a little bit of peace and quiet. And on a Sunday, you used to get that because obviously there was like tournaments, arranging games and stuff. So a lot of the gang members, like the drug lords and that, they had football teams, and it was a way also to make money. So you have little tournaments going on with so many people from other areas, Parkwood, Grassy Park, Manenberg, Athlone. You know, they would come and bring their teams there, and everybody, there's a 10,000 Rand entry fee. And I'm talking about now in the early 96, 95, and back then, like 10,000, 5,000 Rand was like big money.
A lot of money, you mentioned
so
that
if there's
as well.
like 7, 8 teams, and then that winner takes it all. So it was lucrative to play in those tournaments, and then, so...
And
then,
you had all the nice sneakers because you were earning money. Benny goes into how he was attracting friends and also the ladies as well because he was wearing sneakers. And I just hear that time is running out of me and I cannot accept that. I want to go into something that Jose Mourinho says about you. He says, when I think of you, Benny, I remember immediately a smiley face, a relaxed face, a good character. He had everything that a coach loves in a player. And then he goes on to say, I like humble people and loyal people. And I always got this from African people and African players. And obviously the first thing that sprang to mind was this Vinicius Junior scenario, and I'm sure you've been asked about it. You know the man better than anyone else, so give us some insight into this story, but also what it was like having him as an influence in your life.
I think when I go into the Vinicius Junior thing, and like I said, I know Jose personally, and my experiences with him when I saw this came out, I went straight into defense mode of him because I know what he's meant for me. And for all the other African players that's played under him, what he's meant for us. So it was just a defense mechanism about defending his team and not in that instant being aware of the gravity or how severe what was said, what was exchanged between the two players, what the players said to Vinicius Junior. But I know if it comes to light and if the player, he would take extreme measurements because for him, there's no way, like he treats us all, he sees us all as equal, and I experienced that firsthand because when I joined Porto, I was probably at one of my lowest points after what I've experienced in Spain. So where I wanted to even stop playing football, I would rather come back to South Africa and start afresh. And whatever I've made up until then would probably last me to go out life. And I was at that point where football kind of meant nothing for me. So then when I joined Porto and then I met Mourinho from the first day, he put his arm around me, and that was the first time a coach ever did that kind of contact with me, you know. And he just made me feel like I belong, like I was worth something, and I wasn't just a talented footballer that kind of got lost somewhere along the line. So he changed my life. He changed my life for me at that point in time, and I've seen it with so many other players, African players. We felt like we were equal. It wasn't the Portuguese were treated special because they in their country and they from Portugal, so they get like preference to everything, and then the European players, and then the South American players, and the Africans, we always right at the bottom. But no, it was Beni, it's together with Carvalho, with Paulo Ferreira, with Deco, with everyone. Everyone was on par. The way he treats me is the way he treats everyone, and Benny, I just love that.
I cannot believe that time has run away with us. will you sit down with me and do a longer one? Because I want to even go into the experience that you had with some of your players, some of your other coaches, good and bad. And it reminded me of Alan Shearer talking about his relationship with Ruud and how after a while it improved. But thank you so much for taking the time out in South Africa to come and sit with us on Morning Live. We appreciate it. I'm going to go into depth with you at a later time.
Thank you very much for having me, Stacey. It's been such a pleasure and a nice early morning start. So yeah, thanks for having me and for allowing me to speak about that. But we definitely have another date with Destiny and talk about that.
Definitely. There's so much to talk about. I suggest that you get his book because it's written in such a lovely way. And we have been chatting to Benni McCarthy. He told us there's no plans for another song, but perhaps there'll be plans for other books in future.